Hello and welcome to Climbing Daily. Today we have part 2 of our exclusive interview with Adrian Ballinger. Now last time he talked about his K2 film where he climbed it without oxygen. This week he talks about high altitude ethics, the oxygen versus no oxygen debate, and how COVID has affected the guiding industry.
Although it is only 237 meters lower than Everest, K2 is much more difficult to climb. The terrain is steep, requiring advanced mountaineering skills in both rock and ice climbing. The exposure is extreme in places where even the smallest mistake could prove fatal. Bad weather is common, and the risk of avalanche and rockfall is high. And on top of that, the high altitude and lack of oxygen make it hard to breathe. Professional climbers find that kind of challenge intoxicating. It's the kind of fuel that stokes their fire, a test to be taken by those who believe they have what it takes to reach the summit.
Watching Breathtaking and thinking about K2 today, it's almost exactly a year ago that we were getting ready to summit. And for me, sitting here in Tahoe, it's hard to imagine how much the world has changed. My world has changed, both I think temporarily and in the long term, due to coronavirus and all that's happened to us in the world. There are plenty of silver linings for me, during the worst of it here in the US, or at least the first wave of worst of it. Emily and I spent 10 weeks at home in our new house together. Emily Harrington is also a professional climber. And the truth is we've never spent more than 3 weeks at home together in the 8 years of our relationship. So in terms of silver linings, embracing home and realizing that we still love each other and love this life that we're creating together was a really positive one. But of course, there are challenges as well. I miss climbing internationally personally. My guide company last year, Alpenglow Expeditions, ran 31 international expeditions, and we've had to cancel everything since March. And while, we're remaining hopeful for autumn trips or winter trips, it pretty much feels like every month we cancel another 6 or 7 trips, and then the next month we cancel more. But certainly, I think we're going to see a change in international travel, and that will affect guide companies. Personally, I'm getting ready to, kind of buckle back down and go back to full-time guiding when I need to, because the business needs to tighten our belt. And I love guiding still. And there are still people who want to travel out there, but they want to know they're safe, generally want to travel in small private groups or their own pods. And so that's kind of how we're planning our trips, in small private groups, and with our guides and drivers and everyone who's involved having testing before joining trips. So we'll be back out there, I know, but it does feel very different. I could just jump onto my soapbox and talk about ethical climbing and guiding of 8,000 meter peaks for the rest of the day. So I'll try not to do that, and certainly don't want to say I get everything right. But I fell in love with the mountains because they were my version of sacred. Right from when I was a kid, climbing little 6,000 foot hills in New Hampshire. So when I think about going to a place, I think about how it can stay sacred for generations to come. Whatever your definition of sacred is, that has a meaning to everyone, I think. And so if we trash the mountain and leave human poop all over it, if we mistreat the local people who are helping us be successful up there, if we are so competitive that we're just elbowing other climbers out of the way and, completely prioritizing our goals over everyone else's, that's not an experience future generations are gonna want. So that's just the way I try to think of climbing in the mountains. And I try to do everything with that mindset. And so does our company, Alpenglow Expeditions. And, that means many simple things, like leave no trace, just for a long time hasn't existed in the big mountains since the early expeditions of the 20s and the 40s and the 50s. This isn't a new thing. Everyone just used to leave everything on the mountains, whether it was oxygen bottles or gas canisters or tents. But the thing is, now the mountains are easier for us thanks to technology. We have a lot more support, and I think there's a lot more of us wanting to go to the mountains. And so we just can't climb in the style of the 40s or the 20s or even the 60s and 70s. We need to do better.
Previously, the greatest number of climbers to attempt K2 in a single season was 80. But in 2019, Pakistan issued more permits than ever before. No less than 200 climbers would be attempting to reach the summit of K2, and for many, it would be their first time climbing on a peak above 8,000 meters.
A challenge that I see with that, and the reason why it's not just as simple as saying everyone do this, is it's expensive to climb the mountains ethically. If you're going to go to the biggest mountains in the world, you need support. Support is expensive. Cutting corners, like not bringing your trash and poop home, means you can cut those costs. And so it's this weird balance that I don't want the mountains only to be for super wealthy people. So we need to find ways to go to mountains inexpensively, but still take care of them. And that's where we're struggling right now. As more and more people going to the mountains and maybe don't have the funding the climbers of the 90s did through national teams or being, wealthy seven summiters, we need to find ways to have a good standard for everyone. And I really think it's countries' jobs to manage the mountains, like Tanzania is doing a better job with Kilimanjaro, Argentina is doing a better job with Aconcagua. Thus far, we haven't seen the Himalayan countries embrace that. And so I, as a company and an individual, are trying to encourage clients, climbers, to ask for that, to push their companies, not just for profit, but even though it's a little more expensive, to do things right over there.
Almost all of my climbing on 8,000 meter peaks was with supplemental oxygen, bottled oxygen. Finally, in 2016, I really wanted to test myself to my true limits in the biggest mountains. And that's why I tried Everest without supplemental oxygen. I failed and almost got myself killed only a couple of hours from the summit after a 2-month expedition, battling cold and energy levels up high. Even though I was very disappointed in that experience, it was exactly what I had come for, and it led to me putting the entire next year, putting guiding on hold, my company on hold. I went back in 2017 with my same Eddie Bauer team and summited without oxygen. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Getting to the summit I knew I could do. Getting down was really actually pretty scary for me. It was pretty hard, and I needed all of my teammates to keep me awake, to keep me moving. I kind of found that limit, that line. If Everest had been 50 feet higher, I truly don't know if I could have gotten on top of it.
The struggle of with or without oxygen is something I debate endlessly over, like the equivalent of campfires in base camps and at home in the bar and with my fellow guides and climbers. And like I said, I've done both forms a lot. I think I've summited 16 times on 8,000 meter peaks with oxygen, all while guiding, and 2 times, once on Everest, once on K2, without oxygen on these personal climbs. And so I have a lot of respect for both. Oxygen, using supplemental oxygen on 8,000 meter peaks, it is doping. It is clearly the best performance enhancement thing you can use. Better than dexamethasone, better than anything else I can imagine. So I don't think we should hide that. That's what it is. But we're not in a competitive sport against each other. So if we choose to use that, and that's the style we want to climb in, I think we should be allowed to.
That mindset in the big mountains, especially without oxygen, where inevitably we're all gonna feel like the worst we've ever felt in our lives. Having that kind of stoke and passion and belief that we can still succeed is it's so important. It's immeasurable. We're hanging out in the tent. We might have carbon monoxide poisoning because Carla says we might have died last night. But our souls are still very happy, and they went climbing today to Camp 3.
So I've mentioned a few times Emily Harrington, my girlfriend, also a professional climber, total badass that just inspires and motivates me every day and gives me lots of shit. 2 years ago, we decided to start a YouTube channel together called Danger Stick TV. The name comes from a combination of our nicknames. When we started dating, I called her Danger Mouse and she called me Stick Bug, and they've stuck ever since. So Danger Stick TV, please do check it out if you like. We're just finishing up season 2. And of course, adventure and climbing and skiing is kind of the thing that weaves through and hopefully makes it entertaining to watch. But really what we were trying to do is, what we noticed through our relationship is we struggle with all the same relationship stuff that everybody does. We struggle with communication. We struggle with conflicting goals and how to compromise. We struggle with spending time together when we're both so quote unquote busy. And so we kind of wanted to tackle some of those challenges and tell our story and try to be pretty open and honest about what we do, while also having a lot of fun. And we've just had a great time, really seeing people connect with it. And comments and questions and discussion are really the whole whole thing that works about it. So if you do join on, throw us stuff, but either on our Instagram channels or on YouTube. We just love to hear from you. The other reason we started it really is we both have these incredible sponsors. Em's with the North Face, I'm with Eddie Bauer. But the truth is that separates us a lot. We do expeditions with our teammates a lot, and we were really looking for an excuse to do more trips together, and Dangerous Stick TV is really giving us that.
Adrian, what are we doing?
We are hanging out in the car right now.
We went out to eat.
We went to Coffee Bar, one of my favorite coffee shops in town. We haven't been since we got home, and they're doing curbside service. So we got burritos and 2 bags of coffee for home and some really good little mini cappuccinos.
And we sat in the car and ate it.
It was actually really nice.
To make it feel different. It was great.
It felt different.
And now we're gonna climb on the moon board.
Moonboard climb time.
Come on, Abby.
It's all hard today. That's like really powerful for me. But a few days ago it was super easy and I did 4x4s on it. So who knows? Hi, cat. Hi. Hi. Oh.
Thanks to Adrian, and make sure you check out the Breathless K2 film and that YouTube channel. There's a link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.